Hello! So, before we actually start the video, let us talk about something that I absolutely do not agree with. This! I mean, I do like Hololive, but... My dude, why must you do this? God, Niji... I prefer Niji En, like Niji-sanji En, but... getting just zero votes. That is just... Oh my god. I mean, I do like my Hololive, but I recently started, mostly watching, like, Niji-sanji shit. No longer, like, dealing with, like, Hololive shit anymore. But I'm still disappointed. Oh my god. I can't believe you guys decided to do this. Oh god, why? Like, seriously, why must you dunk on, my favorites over here, like Vox over there, and, Ike, and even Solen, my dude. Like, seriously. And my fellow Pinoy, Billy Parfait over there. Seriously. Anyway, let's actually go on to the video, shall we? Hello guys, I am back from another video, and today we're talking about what if Deku was in high school DxD. So, in the last video we talked about how, after arriving back home in his basement, he would start doing the operation on both of Kitase and also Murayama, because in the last video, or should I say last video, they were attacked by a knight by the name of Luis de la Luna, and would basically, slash them to the point that it basically destroys, some of their more vital organs. And because of this, Izuku had to save them by basically giving him his organs to become ghouls, or at least half ghouls. After implanting the new organs in them, he would start leaving to basically, get ready to get some, eats, I guess you could say. After noticing his parents basically left, and also, Millet and also, Rainer, Cowner would basically explain that apparently they're going somewhere mostly to get groceries. And after telling him this, he would start leaving to basically do some other shit. So, after a while and basically waking up in the morning, he would also, see his parents and also some of his, his quote-unquote, maids. And after meeting with them and also talking with them, he would start leaving to go to the basement and would see both, Murayama and Kitase now awake, as he would give them the food, as surprisingly, they were able to eat it. Which, thankfully, was a good thing, because if they didn't have the ability to eat normal food, well, let's just say there's gonna be a murder spree happening. And especially with, let's just say back in the, or at least, if you've seen the anime Tokyo Ghoul, you'll probably know what I mean. So, yeah, anyway, continuing on. After doing so, he would start leaving to go to school. As after arriving at school, he would get notified about something important. Mostly about how they're going to be having a meeting with, the other, two biblical factions. And apparently, they just want to have peace. And this meeting is going to be, next week. The day of the Parents' Day thing. And after saying so, he would basically tell them, sure. And after saying this, one of them, specifically Sona, would basically tell him as well, not Sona, I meant, would basically tell him that he's also going to be getting a present from them, which surprised him. And this present is actually from the Norse pantheon that actually wants to, ally themselves with devils and also the other biblical factions, which surprised him for several reasons. Mostly because, if you've seen, back in, the Norse hometown, or at least, back in, the olden days, you'll probably know why they absolutely hated, the Christians back in the day. So, I'm surprised, they did do the research on that, but I guess, story reasons. But still, that would actually be hilarious, just imagining them going like, alright, we're just gonna forgive you for basically butchering our entire religion. Oh, god damn it. I'm probably gonna be flamed on Twitter or something. Wait a minute. I don't use Twitter. But either way, after, telling him that, he would start leaving. So, after getting that message from Sushis and also the other, and from the others, he would start leaving to go back home, where he starts preparing for his solidity, with Sona. After Sona arrives, and also, his parents basically seeing her, and basically having, let's just say some malicious, malicious smiles on their faces, they would start planning on making them, let's just say big grandbabies. But either way, after their little date was, the date was just like, any normal date. Just a few shopping trips, a bit of fun, eating at a restaurant, blah blah blah. As after the date was done, Sona would basically start leaving and would say goodbye to Izuku. And as for Izuku, he would start to leave, but before he can actually leave, he would be stopped by a little girl. And this girl was the Infinite Dragon God, or the Ouroboros Dragon, or otherwise known as Ophis. As Ophis would, proclaim him as his mate, or her mate. As after saying this, he would, explain, or at least not explain, I meant exclaim that he's too old for basically dating girls like her, and after shifting her body to transform into somewhat of the same age as him, well, he would still rebel that he still wants to, be loyal to Sona. But she was not really happy about that. And so they would start standing off. Basically standing off. Basically looking at each other with malicious intent. And so that's where we basically ended off the episode. And so, let us talk about what happens next, ladies and gents. So, we currently see Izuku standing off towards Ophis, as Ophis would say this. Like I said, you are my mate, and nobody, and I mean nobody, will stop me, she would say. As her dragon pride would basically, show off, as he would say this. It doesn't really matter. Besides, I'm no way going to marry you, he would say. As after saying that, several, fallen angel wings as the phoenix wings would also appear on his back as well, as they would seem to be blazing even more than usual. As his, Kaukaku, Rinkaku, and also his Bihaku would also come out as well. This time, each coated in the same, blackish fire. As he would say this. I'm not that type of person, but why do you want me to become your mate exactly, he would say. As she would say this. I'll talk about that later, but for now, she would say. As she would get ready her sword, not really sword, but more like, as she would start, creating these large snakes out of her hand, as these snakes would start charging towards Izuku, as Izuku would basically dodge them, as he would say this. Too slow, he would say. As after saying that, she would say this. Too slow, you say, she would say. As after saying that, several more snakes would basically appear out of nowhere, out of magical circles. As Izuku would say this. Guess I'll just cut them down, he would say. As he would start slicing them apart with Dracul. As Dracul would basically, activate as he would slice through the snakes like butter. As he would say this. Like I said, I'm no way going to cheat on Sona, he would say. As she would say this. Well, I may ask you this, she would say, as she would start looking at Izuku, as she would say this. The reason why I want you to be my mate is because you're strong. And not only that, if you were to give birth to my children, then she would start, smiling as she would say this. I'll be able to take away that bastard Great Red, and I'll finally take back my territory, she would say, as he would say this. Really? You're just here to just mate with me and then just, that, he would say, as she would say this. Don't worry, I'll let you be my concubine. I'll even let you do whatever you want with me after you mate with me, and even after that, I will let you stay with me forever in for a second, in the dimensional gap forever, she would say. You can even give him power even greater than your secret gear, she would say. As he would say this. Like I said, I'm not interested, he would say. As after saying that, he would start spinning his spear, as the spear would start glowing an immense aura. As he would say this. Now, let's have some fun, he would say. as he would start raising his spear, as he would say this. Now, Kazakli Bay! He would say, as after saying that, several spears would start coming out of the ground, as the spears would start, charging towards her, as she would jump out of the way, as she would say this. Fast, she would say, as after saying that, she would dodge out of the way, as she would say this. You're an equal in strength to me. That's quite surprising. As she would have she doesn't have like a not so surprised face, but on the inside she was kind of surprised after seeing all of his attacks. They were almost the same strength as her, probably even stronger than Great Red, which is quite concerning to say the least. As she would say this. I'm done here, she would say. As Izuku would say this. Wait, what? As she would say this. I was only here to evaluate you, in case if you're not even worthy of being my husband. But it seems that I was right. You are perfect, she would say. As she would start smiling a little bit. Not really actually smiling, it's more like, just a, how do I say this? Well, it's more like, she just like, smirks a little bit. Even though that smirk seems unnerving to him, as he would say this. Why you, he would say, as he would start clenching his fist a little bit, as she would say this. Now, I hope to see you again. Crimson Dragon Emperor, she would say. As after saying that, she would disappear. As he would say this. Crimson Dragon Emperor, he would say. As, his, sacred gear, aka Jakku, would say this. I'm guessing you're now able to have a title that's similar to the Red Dragon Empress and the White Dragon Empress. I mean, it makes sense, after all, you basically have me, he would say. As he would say this. But still, he would say, as he would start laughing a little bit. As he would say this. Yeah, now, we should probably get going. After all, your parents might be worried by any chance, he would say. As he would say this. Yeah, right, he would say. As after saying that, they would start leaving, going back home. After arriving back home, he would have dinner and would instantly fall asleep. Now, it's finally the day of the meeting, aka the Parents' Day Festival, or whatever you want to call it. As we currently see Izuku and the rest of his, peerage mates and also Sona there. As they're currently, organizing everything, as Izuku would say this. He would just sigh, as Sona would say this. What is Izuku, she would say. As she would seem a bit weird about him. As he would say this. Nothing much, just a bit worried about my parents, he would say. As after saying that, she would say this. Oh, your parents, she would say. As one of them would say this, specifically, what's her name? God dang it. Specifically Momo, as Momo would say this. Wait, your parents? I didn't know that your parents basically came back, she would say. As he would say this. Well, they are back, and I'm definitely not excited for them to come here, he would say. As one of them would say this, specifically, Saji. As he would say this. Why is that exactly? Do you not like your parents, he would say. As he would say this. Well, I do like my parents, but, well, let's just say they love embarrassing me. Like, embarrassing me, he would say. As after saying that, one of them would say this. Yeah, I do agree, said, somebody from behind. As after saying this, they would look behind them and would see, well, Riaz, as Riaz would say this. Oh, hello guys, she would say, as the rest of her peerage would also arrive as well. As Zenobia would say this. Izuku, you're finally here, she would say. As Izuku would say this. Oh, hi, well, Zenobia, he would say, as she would say this. Nice to finally meet you again, she would say. As he would start looking towards, Irina, as she would say this. Is it true that, your father and mother are here, she would say? As he would say this. Yeah, I'm definitely not excited for that, he would say. As she would say this. Well, I can definitely see why, but you should at least have to respect your parents, even though they can embarrass you for several, and I mean several times, she would say. As he would say this. Yeah, but still, I'm definitely gonna get a headache from this, he would say. As after saying this, all of the other students' parents would also arrive. As after, while waiting, his parents would finally arrive. As they seemed to be wearing some some pretty fashionable clothing. His mother seems to be wearing like a simple like dress with, oddly, almost, how do I say this? Yeah, basically like Celtic, like, type, designs. As for his father, he would also have a Celtic design, as he would also have some sort of weird symbol on the, on his jacket on the side, which seemed to be a symbol of some sort of, like, tree. As at the first glance, you would think, wait, oh yeah, they probably like, wore this type of shit back in, England or Ireland, he would say. As after saying that to himself, he would start, seeing some other, other things. Like, for example, he would almost feel a little bit weird. Actually, they don't really feel human all that much, as it kind of concerned him. As he would shake that off, saying, probably nothing, he would say, as he would start looking at the others, as the rest of them were basically looking at his parents, including Sona for some odd reason, which she was wide-eyed. As for Riaz, she was also wide-eyed, as Izuku would see this. Riaz? Sona, are you okay? As both of them would say this. Oh, we're fine, Izuku, she would say, said both of them, as Sona would say this. Mind telling me why are your parents, wearing that, she would say, as he would say this. Well, as he would start explaining what they did during their time overseas, as she would say this. Ah, so they gone to Ireland. That would explain your clothing, but as she would start narrowing her eyes towards her, towards, his parents, as she would say this. Either way, she would say, as before they could say anything else, more, students would also arrive, as these students were also, well, more students from, from their different classes, like, for example, from Sona's parents, which they were pretty excited to see him again, which, well, both of his parents were pretty surprised, as they would ask them why are they here, and why are they talking to his son, like, talking to their son, like, super casually. But before they could say anything else, Izuku and also Sona would basically tell them to basically be quiet. And after that little outburst, they would basically, just like laugh a little bit, as Sona would say that she's gonna be leaving for her class, including the others. As Izuku, Irina, Zenobia, Aisha, and finally Issei would basically go back to their normal classes, as their parents were basically behind the, towards the back, as they're currently watching their son, like their, children basically doing their own thing. So, when it was finally lunchtime, everybody's basically like, talking to their parents, including his, as he's currently also with his group, as, their parents were also there. As currently, we see Riaz's parents basically talking to his parents, as they're currently having a grand old time. And the most surprising part, that apparently his, or at least, what is his name? Which apparently his, father is actually Xenioticus, aka the principal of, of Kuo. As after meeting with him, they were surprisingly kind of nice with each other, as both of their parents are basically like having a bit of fun. As for, Riaz's mother and also his mother, they seem to be getting along just fine. Quite crazily, in fact. Most of them joking about how their, children could probably, oh boy, if I were to say that, I would probably be demonetized. Which, caused Izuku to basically deny that, and also, sort of become a little bit mad. As, well, let's just say Sona's parents decided to drop a bomb. Oh boy, let's just say his parents were not expecting this. As, her father would say this, specifically Sona's. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Midoriya, he would say, as both of them would say this. Ah, what is it, Miss, Shitori, Mr. and Miss Shitori, they would say, as one of them would say this. Well, you see, your son and my daughter are, as before they can actually stop it, it was already too late. As he would say this. Well, they're engaged. A silence. An absolute fucking silence. And then, what? Well, both of his parents would just be wide-eyed, as, one of them would say this, specifically his mother. Why did you tell me this? Said, well, his mother, as he would say this. Like I said, I did not want to talk about it, he would say, as his father would say this. Son, he would say, as he would have shadowy eyes, as Izuku would say this. Dad, he would say, as he would say this. I'm so proud of you, he would say, as he would pick him up, as he would say this. I can't believe it. You finally got, engaged, and not only that, you were engaged, still in high school, he would say, as he would start, crying manly tears, as Izuku would say this. That was unexpected, he would say, as both of, his and also, well, and also, Sona's mother would start, basically like talking how they're thinking of the wedding. As Izuku and also Sona would basically face plant onto the ground, basically saying to themselves, God, why is it so embarrassing? All of them would say, both of them would say, as currently we see the other girls basically jealously basically staring. As we also see, a somewhat angry Kiva saying to herself, why can't I be like that, she would say. As we also see, Mr. and Mrs. Phoenix, as they're currently, talking to their daughter, as they would see this. So, how's your progress trying to, get to the young Vittoria boy? As in, still pretty much annoying to say. Well, pretty much unexpected to say to say the least, but still. The new pawn of Sona, he would say, as she would say this. Well, not really good. And let's just say I've been having a lot of competition, she would say, as he would say this. Well, it could make sense after all. Especially with that kid. And starting to think that he's starting to become a little bit of a magnet. Unlike our somewhat of an idiot of a son, he would say. As, now Miss Phoenix would say this. Yeah, thankfully he's somewhat able to reform. Well, sort of. Currently in the background. Please, somebody save my dick! Please, somebody, please reattach it. At least anything. As we also hear in the background, also muffled pain. Oh, god dang it. As, Sona would say this. Not Sona, I meant, Raven would say this. Anyway, apparently they're going to be having a meeting with the other biblical factions for peace, as one of them would say this. I see. So, is there anything interesting about that? After saying this, Raven would say this. Well, apparently, Izuku is going to be getting some presents from, or at least the peace, offering from what is that called again? From the Norse faction, she would say. As both of them would have wide eyes, as they would say, wait, Norse faction? They would say, as she would say this. Yes, but we also, or at least I also felt something weird about his parents, she would say. As after saying that, one of them would say this. Really? Mind telling us what is that? What is that? She would say. As she would say this. Well, you see, as we go back to Izuku and the rest of the gang, as after a while basically talking and also a bit of having a bit of fun, this parent, all of their parents, specifically, not Irina, actually no, Irina's parents would probably not join, at all. Mostly, Ria's, Sona's, and also, Izuku's parents would basically start leaving, saying that they're going to be going back to the house. As after saying so, we also see Sergius basically arrive. As after doing so, he would say this. Now, that all of you are here, he would say. As everybody else would basically, look at him. As Izuku would say this. As he would say this. Oh yeah, I forgot about that, he would say. As he would start looking at Izuku, as he would say this. You see, the Norse faction is going to be coming here very soon, so be prepared, he would say. As after saying this, he would say this. Sure. And, as he would start looking at, the rest of the others, as he would say this. I also sort of have an announcement, he would say. As he would sigh a little bit, as he would say this. You see, as he would start saying this. Well, when it was when it was going on a little hangout session with Murayama and also Katase, as after saying this, Sona would start getting wide-eyed as she would say this. What do you mean by hangout section? I mean, hangout, session, she would say, as she would start having a dark aura around her, as he would say this. Hey, we're just friends, I swear, he would say. Sorry about that, wait for a second. Sorry about that, anyway, continuing on with the episode. As, after saying this, she would say this. Fine. But, if I ever hear you trying to cheat on me, she would say, as she would, create a little, ice spear below his feet, as he would say, hey, he would say, as she would say this. I will not forgive you, she would say. As he would say this. Yeah, I know, I promise, I won't do anything like that. Like that at all, he would say. As she would say this. Good. Now, please continue, she would say. As she would stop having that dark aura around her. As the others would also just sweat drop, as Izuku would continue on. As he would say this. Well, when we were basically getting ready to go home, we were attacked by this man by the name of Luz de la Luna, said Izuku. As all of them would just, look confused, as one of them would say this. Luz de la Luna said, a pretty confused Saji, as he would say this. Yeah. And not only that, as he would start clenching his fist, Murayama and Katase almost got killed, he would say. As after saying that, they would say, wait, so they know about the supernatural? Or, both of them would basically say, including the others. As he would say this. Yeah. And so I had to save them, he would say. As, one of them would say this. Specifically, search this. So, how did you save them? He would say. As he would say this. Well, you know how I basically said I was, allowed to basically tell you how, we're able to basically create half-devils or something of that sort, he would say. As one of them would say this. Specifically, Issei. As she would say this. Yeah? What about it, she would say. As he would say this. Well, you see, if a person wants to become a half-devil, they can either, as he would start, lifting up his, shirt, as he would say this. By replacing one of their organs with an actual ghoul, he would say. As after saying that, all of them would just be surprised, as he just would say this. So you're saying that you, as he would say this, yeah. And if you're asking, no, I'm not gonna die. And besides, I basically have super regeneration. Especially because it's enhanced by, by the Phoenix. By the Phoenix family from that roasted chicken, he would say. As after saying that, one of them would say this. But still, then, wait, does that mean that, as he would say this, yes, they're half-ghouls now, he would say. As all of them would be surprised, as Izuku would say this. But either way, I wanted to ask, some of you guys, specifically, not really some of you guys, but more like Sona, he would say. As Sona would say this. What is it, what is it exactly, she would say. As he would say this. Well, as he would bow down, as he would say this. I want you to please, add them to your peerage, he would say. As after saying that, both of them would just be surprised. Specifically Reyes and also Sona. As, Sona would say this. Really? Why exactly, she would say. As he would say this. I don't want them to get hurt, or anything of that sort, so I wanted to ask you to basically turn them into half-devil, half-ghouls, to basically protect them. And not only that, they can certainly be a help. I don't know what their, what their Kagane are, but I'm still, finding out what they are. I'm even planning to basically train them, so... As after saying that, she would say this. Very well, she would say. But bring them here later. As after saying that, he would say this. Sure, he would say. As after saying that, Izuku would start leaving, as he would start going towards, where Murayama and also Katase are. As after arriving at where their, classroom is, he would see Katase and Murayama talking to, their parents, respectively. As Izuku would say this. Hey, Katase, Murayama, he would say. As, both of the girls would just be surprised as they would start running up to him, as they would say this. Izuku! As both of them would say that, as they would start, hugging onto Izuku's arms. Which caused Izuku to basically be surprised a little bit, as he would say this. girls, can you, as she would say this, specifically, well, sorry about that, anyway, continue on, as Miriama would say this. Well, we, sort of felt, well, like it, she would say. As Katase would say this. Yeah, she would say. As we also see, well, both their parents basically look at him. As one of them would say this, specifically Muriyama's mother. Well, it seems that they seem to be competing for one man, said, Muriyama's mother. As Katase would say this, or at least Katase's mother. Yeah, it seems so. As after saying this, Muriyama's dad would say this. It seems that she decided to set her eyes on him, but before he can say anything else, he would look towards, well, Katase's dad. As Katase's dad is literally emitting so much aura that it could probably even rival a devil. As Izuku would just be surprised, as he would start looking at the man, as he would say this. Mind telling me what is your relationship with my daughter, he would say. As he would say this. We're sort of friends, he would say. As he would say this. Sure, but make sure not to break her heart, he would say. Or, as he would grip onto his, shoulder, as he would say this. Or, I'll break you. After saying that, he would start, becoming a little bit fearful, as he would say this. Sure, sir, he would say. As after saying that, he would say, to both Katase and Muriyama that they should follow him. They want to talk, or at least, Rias wants to talk to them. Not really Rias, I meant, for a second, god dang it. I said, or at least I meant, instead of Rias, I meant, Sona, as both of them would just be surprised, as he would say this. What does the president want with us, they would say, as he would say this. You'll find out soon, he would say. As after saying that, he would start leaving with them. As, all of them would just be, thinking about, or at least only three of them specifically, Katase's mother, and, not Katase, I meant, Moriyama's, parents, and also Katase's mother, while his father, I meant her father, is currently, thinking of, trying not to murder the bitch, he would say in his mind. Oh, God. But either way, after arriving at the rooftop, they would start explaining why they're here. As both they would just be surprised, as Katase would say this. So, you're saying that, we can become devils, said Katase, as she would say this. Yes, and after hearing what Izuku said, I'll be gladly to, allow you to join my peerage, she would say. As after saying this, she would say this, specifically, Katase, as she would say this. Then, I'll accept, she would say, as Muriyama would say this. Me too, she would say. As after saying so, she would say this. Alright then, we're going to be starting off the ritual later on, because we're going to be busy with the meeting, she would say. As one of them would say this, specifically Muriyama. Really? What is this meeting about, she would say. As she would say this, specifically, Sona. Well, it's a peace treaty, she would say. As she would say this. Really? Then, good luck on that, she would say, specifically Muriyama, and also Katase. As they would say goodbye to Izuku. As they would basically, instead of leaving normally, they would basically blow him a kiss. As would cause many of the other girls to basically start, becoming a little bit angry. Except for, what's her name? Tsubaki. Because, well, I always alluded to that she's probably gonna be the harem. Well, I changed my mind. Instead, she's gonna be dating, Saji. Or at least, getting ready to, at least, date Saji. So yeah, unfortunately, no Tsubaki. So yeah, anyway, continuing on. As after doing so, they would start leaving to go to the meeting place, which is in the student council office, as every single student now is currently, left. Except for some. As the parents basically left as well, but, some students decide to stay. Or at least ones that are basically, doing their work, and also Muriyama and Katase basically staying there in case of, well, they wanted to, talk to Izuku later. As after arriving at where the so-called, wait for a second, god dang it, my butt, not butt, So, after arriving at the meeting place, they would start looking around as they would see a large round table. As Izuku would decide to basically sit right next to Sona, as for the others, they would also sit down. As after, sitting down, they would also see Seraphol arrive, as she would say this. This. Sonatan, she would say, as she would basically jump onto, Izuku and also Sona, as she would say this. Izuku-tan, she would say, as Izuku would say this. Wait, Izuku-tan, he would say, as she would say this. Yep, because you're basically now going to be like a family member, why not call you that? And I should also ask you this, she would say. As she would start looking at Izuku once again, as she would say this. How would you, and me have a bit of fun first later, after, the meeting, she would say. As she would smile, as Izuku would say this. Excuse me, what? He would say, as she would say this. Specifically, a person in the room. Can't both of you stop your, lovey-dovey shit, she would say. And besides, as they would look over and would see Volley. As Volley would be there, as she would seem to be glaring at all of them. As she would say this. It's super disappointing how that we're going to be having the meeting here instead of having my fight with my rival, she would say. As she would start looking at Issei, as Issei would say this. Please stop this, she would say. As she would say this. Whatever, my rival, she would say. As after saying this, a person would also arrive again. In this case, Azazel, as Azazel would say this. Hello there, he would say. As several more people basically arrive, as two more people arrive there. More specifically, two heavenly beings. Being Michael and a girl. A girl that seems to be quite beautiful with blondish hair and bluish eyes. She also seems to be wearing a similar outfit, but she was also wearing, as she would also have a halo and several more wings, but mostly just has, 8 wings. As she would also wield a, instead of like a typical, any holy weapon, she seems to be wielding, a pistol. A holy one to say the least, but still. As after, arriving, everybody would just be, staring down at each other. As, Michael would say this. We're finally here, he would say. As he would start looking at Izuku, as he would say this. And so you're the proclaimed, great demon lord, he would say. Not really demon lord, but, actually let me just pick a name. I meant, so you must be the great, the great wielder of the beyond Long Highness, sacred gear, he would say. As he would say this. Beyond Long Highness, he would say. As he would say this. Well, yes. After your renowned, and also quite, eventful, what do you say? For a second. Your quite amazing and also quite terrifying debut. Let's just say you were given, a quite, interesting name. The Beyond Long Highness user, he would say. As the girl, which seems to be, right beside him, as she would say this. Hello there, she would say, as she would have a nice smile, as Izuku would also feel something beneath that. It seems to be lust. He was confused because apparently fallen angels, if they were to, feel any sort of desire, like for example lust, wrath, pride, or anything of that sort, they would instantly fall, but for some odd reason, this girl is not falling. As he would say this, hello there, as he would say this. You may call me Michael. Michael the Archangel, he would say. As he would say this. Wait, Michael the Archangel? As he would start, just be, instantly just aware, as he would start bowing down, like to say this. I'm really sorry, he would say. I'm really sorry that I didn't recognize you, he would say. As he would say this. Don't meet for formalities. After all, we are going to be working with each other, he would say. As he would say this. Oh, right. As he would basically stand up. As he would say this. Now, before we start this, I want to say this. I am happy for all of you to be here. And now, let the meeting begin. So, just like in the anime, they would start discussing the formalities. Like for an example, how they're going to be making this, this day a wonderful day where angels, fallen angels, and finally devils are going to be once again united, and this time fighting against a much more bigger threat, which apparently this threat has been causing a bit of trouble recently. Apparently, the name is Chaos Brigade, and they're also planning to basically line up with several, other gods. But the most difficult ones seem to be a set of gods from, I think from the western part of the United Kingdom, otherwise known as the Celtic, pantheon. But there's also some other pantheons like the, Aztec pantheon, and also, what is that name? God dang it! Why did I forget that name? Basically, Malaysian mythology or Filipino mythology. That's basically what it is. As after a bit explaining, Izuku would say this. Well, that is certainly interesting, he would say. As he would say this. Oh, and I almost forgot, he would say. As Izuku would just be surprised, as he would say this. What is it, he would say. As he would say this. Well, he wanted to give you this gift, he would say. As after, saying this, he would pull out a sword. As the sword would appear, as it seems to be a sword with the hilt resembling large claws. As the sword would also have, a bit of like jagged edges, as it seems to be mostly golden with silver, with mostly silver. As all of them would recognize it instantly, as, one of them would say this, specifically, well, what is her name? Yeah, Zenobia, as she would say this. That's, as one of them would say this, specifically Izuku. That's Ascalon, he would say. As Issei would say this. Huh? She would say, as, DJ would come out of his sacred gear, or her sacred gear, and would basically start talking. Ascalon, the Dragon Slayer's sword, said to be wielded by Georgios. As he would say this, specifically, I keep saying, I keep confusing, Ascalon with Durandal for some odd reason. I think it's just because of fate, but either way, as Michael would say this. You are right, Great Dragon Emperor. Or should I say D-Drake, he would say. As after saying this, D-Drake would say this. Yes, so you're saying that you're going to give this sword to Issei, he would say. As he would say this. Yes. Now, after saying this, Ascalon would be given to, to Issei. As after giving, after being given by the sword, or at least after being, given the sword, she would say this. Wow, it's so... As she would try to, swing the sword, as, Kiva would start to cringe a little bit, saying to herself, why do I feel insulted, she would say to herself. As, some of the other girls that were also swordsmen would say, I feel pretty pissed off for some odd reason. As, Izuku would say this. She definitely seems like a kid in a candy store, he would say. As, DJ would say this. Now, I want you to say fuse, he would say. As she would say this. Fuse, she would say. As he would say this. Yes. Now, as she would say this. Alright. Fuse, she would say. As after saying that, the sword would disappear. As she would say this. Wait, where's Ascalon, she would say. As everybody else would just be surprised. Except for, for both, Gabriel, aka the girl right beside Michael, as Michael would say this. Well, I want you to say this, Miss Issei, the Red Dragon Empress, he would say, as she would say this. Huh? What? She would say, as he would say this. Just listen for now. After all, that dragon sir is a tricky one, he would say. As, DJ would say this. Well, you are right. Now, Issei, I just want you to say this. Blade, he would say. As she would say this. Blade, she would say. As after saying that, a sword would start coming out of her, gauntlet, as it would seem to resemble Ascalon. As everybody would just be surprised, including Izuku, as he would say this. Whoa, well, that was an interesting part, he would say. as everybody would just be surprised seeing that she's able to now wield the legendary dragon slaying sword. Kind of ironic because, her sacred gear is after all a dragon sacred gear. As, one of them would say this, specifically his, Izuku's secret gear would also come out as well, as he would start to speak in a somewhat distorted voice. Well, it seems that you're able to use the legendary Ascalon, he would say, as everybody else would just look at the voice, as they would see his secret gear talking, as one of them would say this. Whoa, is his secret gear kind of like Issei's or Valley's, he would say, specifically Saji, as, Valley would just look at him, and she would just sigh a little bit, as, Issei would say this. Well, that was quite a surprise, she would say, as, DJ would say this. So, you're my host's best friend, apparently, he would say. Or at least, the sacred gear that's sealed inside of him, he would say. As he would say this. Yes, you may call me Dracul, the great Hydra Emperor, he would say. As Izuku would say this. Now you're giving yourself a title, he would say. As he would say this. It's better than being called a Dragon Emperor. Well, I'm not technically a dragon, more of a Hydra than anything else, he would say. As after saying this, one of them would say this, specifically, Rias. Wait, you're a Hydra? Wait, does that mean that you have, as he would say this, yes, I have multiple heads, but I don't really regenerate them. As she would say this. Oh, I see, she would say. As after saying that, he would say this. Now, as for you, D-Drake, it's quite interesting how you're able to now wield that legendary sword. But either way, as after saying this, he would start looking at Izuku, or at least sort of looking, I guess, as he would say this. Now, let's continue on with the meeting. After all, we need to get some sleep for school, next time, or at least next week, he would say. As he would say this. Oh, right, he would say. As after saying that, the meeting would continue. As while you were doing the meeting, wait for a second. Anyway, continue on, as after, saying this. What the fuck? God dang it. Anyway, continue on. As we also see Izuku, as he would say this. Well, that's currently just one of the biggest surprises in my opinion, he would say. As, he would say this. Either way, let's continue on with the meeting, he would say. As the meeting on would basically just, continue on, as after a while of, talking, and also a bit of, asking him how, how Izuku is basically a new-ish species to the, to this world. As one of them would say this, specifically, one of them specifically, Michael, as you would say this. So you're saying that your species used to eat human flesh, but for some odd reason, you're able to not eat human flesh. In fact, you're able to just eat like a normal human. And you did say that you're able to basically turn people into half-ghouls by using your, organs, you would say. As you would say this. Yep. And not only that, if a person were to, become a half-ghoul, or at least back then, they would become absolute berserkers in battlefields. Especially if it comes to, eating human flesh. Trust me, the last time that I had to deal with a glutton is, well, he would say, disturbing, he would say. As after saying that, one of them would say this. A glutton? What do you mean by that? Said, said a curious, Azazel, as he would say this. Well, a person that's basically addicted to food so much that they basically become a literal, well, not really eating habit, but more like a freaking disorder. Well, that's what gluttons are. They're basically absolutely hungry, no matter if they're just, either just hungry or just, just wanted to do it just because it's freaking fun, he would say. As one of them would say this. Well, that was, as he would say this. Yeah, let's just say they're absolutely fucking disgusting, he would say. I especially heard those back in my day. I would rather not talk about it, he would say. As after saying that, one of them would say this. I see. Well then, let us continue on with the meeting. And also, I wanted to ask you this, Izuku Midoriya, he would say. As he would say this. What is it, he would say. As he would say this. Well, I've been wondering, I never seen a secret gear like yours before. And it's definitely not a secret gear that you ever see. Like, seriously. As you would say this. Yep, get out a lot. Or at least, recently. As after saying that, he would say this. Very well. As before they can, continue on with with the meeting, they would hear a large explosion. As everybody else would say this. What the heck was that? Everybody would say. As after saying this, they would hear this. So a meeting between the other biblical factions wanted peace. How disappointing. A girl would basically say, as everybody would just look at, at the outside. As they would see several mages basically there, each having, robes basically upon them. Each of them having, having several eyes on their robes. As a girl would basically stand before them. As this girl seems to have, tan skin and glasses. As everybody, mostly the devils, fallen angels, and, angels would just be wide-eyed. Except for, their specific peerages. As Izuku would say this. Well, let me guess. He might be one of the original descendants of one of the original, or at least one of the original, Mao, he would say. As one of them would say this. Correct. How did you know that? Since there's this, as he would say this. I guess he would say. As he would start spinning his spear. As he would say this. Well, it seems that they know about the meeting. Why not try and stop them, he would say. As he would start twirling his spear a little bit. As one of them would say this. That seems like a great idea, said, Seraphol. And besides, I'm no way not gonna take my... There's no way that I'm letting her take my title. Especially with her personality, she would say. As after saying this, they would start getting ready for the fight, including Surges and including some of the other, members of this, including the others of the meeting. Except, for some odd reason, Valley. As Valley seems to be looking at the sky, saying to herself, so it begins, she would say. As after saying this, we're gonna be ending this episode right off here. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. Comment and subscribe. And I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!